to perform its work. I am saying all these things because as the head of the office in country at the moment, I know the efforts we also put in, the advocacy we also embarked on to ensure that this law comes into reality. And therefore, we never left it there. We've had engagement with our partners, and very soon we will be embarking on activities that would enhance the capacity and provide some logistical support for the Commission. We are also preparing to support the Commission to set up offices in areas that they are supposed to be, but because of capacity issues, they are not. These are some of the things that from the UNODC we are putting in place to support the Commission to be in a better position to work within this act. We know that transitioning from whatever that they were doing under the Narcotic Control Board to this Commission requires a lot of support, and we stand resolute to support them. On this note, we would like to call upon the POS Foundation to intensify this work that they are doing. It is a pleasure for the UNODC to collaborate with the POS Foundation in this area. We know the great work that you are doing as far as prisons reform are concerned, and we are also going to embark on a holistic prisons reform, for which reason we would need you to be part of this project. So I wish to congratulate the POS Foundation for this initiative, and I also wish to inform the Narcotic Control Commission that UNODC, as your implementing partner in the country, is ever ready to support you. Mr. Chairman, with these few words from the UNODC, I wish to thank you and wish you all a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Indeed, capacity building is a key tool for the effective implementation of this law. Having said that, I think that it is right that the POS Foundation and its partners, the West African Drug Policy Network, the IDPC, with funding from OSIWA, is actually organizing this workshop, which I think is part of the effort towards capacity building for prosecutors and police officers within the law enforcement unit. So a round of applause for the partners, please. I would want to draw your attention to the fact that we are streaming live on POS Foundation Facebook page and then Court on Como on YouTube page as well. Having received the message from the UNODC, it is time to actually hear from the mother commission that has the law at its domain in implementation and rollout of activities. Therefore, I would want to invite the Deputy Director of the Narcotic Control Commission, Mr. Michael Addo, to give us his address. A round of applause for Mr. Addo, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, His Lordship Justice Bright Mensah, Country Director of UNODC, Mr. Bernard Asamoah, Directors and representatives of the various security agencies, government agencies, all protocols duly observed. I want to apologize for the absence of my Director General, who would have wished to be here, but for the fact that there's an equally important program that he needed to attend. So he asked me to stand in his stead. Mr. Chairman, In observing this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Drug Trafficking, which is also known as the World Drug Day, we were admonished through the theme for the occasion to share facts on drugs to save lives. Similarly, Mr. Chairman, following the passage of the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020, Act 1019, it is imperative to share the facts on the provisions in the Act to save lives. This is because any misrepresentation on the provisions in the Act could spell doom for others. As such, I believe this workshop provides us the opportunity to have a much better appreciation of the provisions in the Act 1019. I quite remember when this bill was, this law was before Parliament. People were asking a whole lot about decriminalization, legalization, and a whole lot. And now that the law is out, we don't see the legalization and decriminalization there. But there are equally important provisions in the law that is serving our purposes. Admittedly, the passage of Act 1019 has garnered a lot of public interest, both home and abroad, due to some key provisions in the Act. Topical among the provisions in Act 1019, particularly for the purposes of this workshop, is Section 3I, which provides that substance use disorders is treated as a public health issue. Mr. Chairman, let me reiterate the position of the Narcotics Control Commission on this particular provision, that in the spirit of the law, this provision in no terms implies the legalization of drug use, nor the decriminalization of drug use in Ghana. Let me say it again, that in the spirit of the law, this provision in no terms implies the legalization of drug use, nor the decriminalization of drug use in Ghana. That drug use remains an offense under the Act, as enshrined in Section 45 of Act 1019. The sigh of relief, however, provided in Section 45(3) and 5 is that there is alternative to incarceration. And that is a great sigh of relief to everybody, including my brother from prisons, who will no more be sending so many people to the prison, because there is an alternate punishment that one could be fined, or the court may make an order directing the person to seek treatment and rehabilitation at a facility approved by the Commission in consultation with the Minister for Health. So that is for one's punishment. You will have to go to a rehab center for treatment, and you will not be put into prison custody. However, considering drug use as a public health issue helps us to appreciate that persons suffering from substance use disorders require counseling and treatment and not incarceration. We need to understand that drug use is a problem that could befall any individual with ripple effects on the larger society. We need to understand that persons who have fallen victim to drug use should not be shunned, but be shown love and affection. This will help them to receive appropriate counseling and treatment interventions where they will be well informed, rehabilitated, live a better life, and be socially reintegrated to contribute their quota towards national development, so that we don't write them off. As for this person, he's gone. There is nothing you can do with him. There is something that we can do with such people. Rehabilitation, treatment is the answer to that. They can be brought back to help in the society. Again, Mr. Chairman, Section 3G enjoins us to adopt measures to reduce the demand for and harm caused by the use of narcotic drugs and plants through education, treatment, and rehabilitation of persons with substance use disorders. We are supposed to help them, assist them, and reduce harm that is caused by the use of drugs through education, as I've already mentioned. To this effect, Mr. Chairman, the Commission, in collaboration with the partners, its partners, have been providing evidence-based training on the universal treatment curriculum to help equip healthcare providers and counselors with the requisite knowledge in the treatment of substance use disorders, which hitherto was referred to as drug addiction. We have been advised not to refer to them as drug addicts. They are people living with substance use disorders. And the treatment of substance use disorders is not as simple as you go to a hospital setting and a doctor treats you. It's got to do with a whole lot of combinations. The hospital setting is important. The other issues of counseling is also very important, and many other things that will have to come together. So a rehabilitation center is something that as a country we need to invest in. And luckily, the law has made a provision for us to establish a national rehabilitation center. And the law went ahead to prescribe how we can fund that rehabilitation center. So that is very important. If the judge is to commit somebody to go to a rehabilitation center, then it means we should be having the rehabilitation center that the person should be going to have the treatment. To ensure effective and efficient implementation of the provisions in the law, there is the need for the passage of appropriate legislative instruments. Efforts are frantically underway to facilitate the passage of these regulations. Certainly, there will be stakeholders' consultations on the provisions in the legislative instrument on the Act 1019. Mr. Chairman, let me also make this special provision relating to the cannabis in Section 43 very clear. Section 43 does not legalize the cultivation of cannabis in general. it is only allowing the cultivation of special cannabis, which has THC level not more than 0.3% on dry weight basis. Cannabis of a type which has THC level, tetrahydrocannabinol level concentration, which is not more than 0.3% on dry weight basis. That is the special dispensation that has been given to be cultivated, the cannabis that is to be cultivated. This is for industrial purposes, for obtaining fiber or seed, or for medicinal purposes. Section 43(2) says that for the avoidance of doubt, a license granted under subsection 43(1) shall not be for the cultivation of cannabis for recreational use. So the law is allowing the cultivation of specialized cannabis, not cannabis for recreational use. So we should be very clear about that. There are so many people who are growing cannabis already, and what they are thinking of is that when the law becomes operational, that which is illegal is going to be turned legal. That is wrong. The type of cannabis they are already growing is not what the law specifies. So before you can even grow that specialized cannabis, you need to get license from the commission before you can do that. So we should be careful we don't mix things up. The commission appreciates the support and collaboration of its stakeholders and will continue to foster such support in achieving our common and shared responsibility in addressing the global drug problem. The country director of UNODC has given me assurance that they're going to support us to get most of the things done. There are so many things that we need as a commission. We need to establish offices in all the regions as well as the districts. This is a huge task. We need to set up a forensic lab. This is a huge task. So we welcome the support that you say you're going to give unto us. May we have a fruitful deliberation on the provisions in Act 1019. And may this workshop broaden our understanding into the provisions of the Narcotics Control Commission Act 1019. Thank you for your attention, and God bless us all. Thank you.
A round of applause for Deputy Director, please. Please, growing up, one of the things I got to know is that clapping is actually an exercise. So let's do it better for our speakers. Within this short time of facilitating the opening session, there's one thing that I have actually been identified with, which almost every speaker has made mention of, and that is the fact that drug users need treatment through rehabilitation and not incarceration. At this juncture, I would want to invite Dr. Bafo Ewua, Chief Program Officer, Medical and from the Ministry of Health. A round of applause for Dr. Ewua.
Good morning. I bring you greeting from Ministry of Health and also an apology from the Honorable Minister for Health, who is currently engaged in another meeting, so he's asked me to come and read the speech for him. The chairperson for the occasion, directors and representatives from sister ministry, department, and agencies here present, director from security and law enforcement agencies, ladies and gentlemen, the media, all protocols duly observed. The Ministry of Health is glad to be part of this important workshop on Narcotic Control Commission Act 2020, that's Act 1019. The ministry wants to thank the partners who have come together to organize this important workshop, namely the Perfecter of Sentiment Foundation, the International Drug Policy Consortium, Africa Drug Policy Network, and Open Society Foundation. We commend you for organizing this workshop with the team Understanding the Narcotic Control Commission Act 2020, the role of law enforcement and prosecutors in health, right-based best practices to handling people who use drugs in the implementation of the Act. The Ministry of Health finds the team more appropriate, and more especially as this workshop is bringing all relevant stakeholders together to discuss the effective implementation of the Act. The new law clearly represents an important example of drug policy reform advocacy in West Africa and Ghana. Ghana's new law seeks to treat drug use and dependency as a public health issue, rather than focusing on law enforcement, incarceration, punishment, and repression. This new law has converted the prison term for drug possession for personal use into a fine. This means instead of sending people to prison for up to 10 years for possession of drugs for personal use, the new law offers alternatives to incarceration and criminalization. The new trend is to see drug addicts and substance abuse individuals reform and get back or reintegrate into the society. Reintegration also means these individuals need to be rehabilitated and reformed. It is important to also note that the new law also gives the Ministry of Health the mandate to be able to establish rehabilitation centers, either regulating private rehabilitation or establishing public rehabilitation centers to rehabilitate affected drug addicted persons and reform them. The Ministry of Health would like to once again commend the organizers of the program and pledge its continuous support to work with all relevant stakeholders as well as the Narcotic Control Commission to be able to look at how we can get some of our young people who, through attitude, norm, or social influence and peer pressure, have gotten themselves into the art of smoking or using drugs. This is a public health issue and therefore the need for public health solutions. Substance abuse individuals and drug addicts need psychiatric or clinical psychologists to assist them to reform. In fact, we agree with the fact that when some of these individuals want to stop, they get to a point where they cannot even stop. Yet, not all those who are drug addicts commit crime because some use them for recreational purposes. So we urge all stakeholders present to collaborate and make sure that substance abuse individuals will be given treatment as persons with mental health challenges and not hurriedly criminalized and sent to prison. The Ministry of Health will work with partners and stakeholders to mobilize resources to support the Mental Health Authority to establish rehabilitation centers that will provide rehabilitation services for affected individuals. The ministry is also urging the private sector and non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations in mental health space to invest in rehabilitation centers to complement the efforts of government. Finally, the ministry will wait for the outcome and recommendation from this workshop that will support the current effort of the ministry to position the Mental Health Authority to deal with the increasing incidence of drug and substance abuse in our society, as well as rehabilitation and reformation efforts. Thank you very much for your attention. May God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ewa. On that note, I would kindly invite His Lordship Justice Bright Mensah to give his closing remarks. A round of applause for the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Coordinator. It does appear to me that this place is too quiet, or you don't agree with me? And it's a workshop, so we need to be cheerful. We need, interact here and there. I mean, we are not sitting under the feet of a professor where you have to keep quiet. In our part of the world, when your professor is speaking, who dare you to challenge? You can be assured that you will fail. But that is not the position here. So please, we should all feel free. From speaker to speaker, the emphasis has been that this new law seeks to, put on its face public health, human rights, and the rest of it. Now, I want to speak to my prosecutors. Before you can make any meaningful prosecution, so far as this law is concerned, you have to, as much as possible, be studying the law. And if you have any issues, you ask. You need to consult. Your seniors will be there to assist. And if there's a need for you to seek advice from the Aegis department, you must do so. I started my career as a magistrate in the late 90s in Sefiri also. And I want to share with you a story that I heard. I didn't meet that prosecutor, but I was told that there was this prosecutor, when you went to the police station to make a complaint, especially if it's assault, he will ask you, when the person beat you, did you beat him or her in reply? When your answer is, I did not, then you will say that, oh, this is a good case. Because when I go to court, the chances are that I'm going to win. But if you give an indication that you also replied, then I will tell you that, look, I don't want to go and be heckled by the magistrate. So this is your case, you better have to take it away. Now, I'm saying this to emphasize the point that when you are on top of your brief, no matter the kind of lawyer who will defend the person on the other side, because you yourself you have prepared and you have your provisions of the law on your fingertips, you should be able to, carry the day. It's not always the case that you win your case, but at least you would have fought a good fight in court. The accused person would have had his day in the courtroom. Now, I want to once again commend the organizers of this program. Let me also say that the judiciary, and for that matter, the Honorable Chief Justice, is willing to partner the organizers in any way for another workshop to be done. Because this is a new law that we are going to work with. And from experience, once it's a new law, there will be always rough edges to be pruned down. So I want to urge on the organizers to organize a workshop for the judges, especially the circuit court judges and then maybe the magistrates, because they are going to work with the law quite often. So that is my humble plea. I also think that because of the public health issue and human rights-based aspect of the law that has come to the fore, I think it's appropriate that the Department of Social Welfare, are they now Department of Social Welfare, or how do you call it now? Social Welfare Department. You need to bring them also on board. Because when it comes to rehabilitation and treatment, I think it's appropriate that they must also be involved, because I think they have the expertise on that. Finally, let me also say that just as the representative from the Narcotic Commission said, Section 43 makes it clear that the passage of this law hasn't taken away the unlawfulness of the offense. So, in fact, when this bill was being discussed in Parliament, I agree. There were some suggestions that we should decriminalize it so that we can even make economic gains out of it. And they gave examples that some countries that are cultivating, I think Australia or some, I've forgotten Canada, are making huge sums of money from it. And in Ghana, we are cash trapped. So if we should allow, is it not appropriate, Mr. If it's appropriate, let's, revisit the law and then you regulate it so that we can have hard currency out of it. The consumption should not be here, but elsewhere, please. we can export it to other places that they need the most, whilst we also control its cultivation and usage. So on this note, I wish the participants a very successful workshop, and I believe, as the speakers have all said, this workshop should not, end today. More often, they have to organize some for other stakeholders, particularly the judiciary. Thank you so much.
I think this is an avenue where we give a bigger clap to our chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you so very much. So we are going to close this session. We're going to have photographs right behind, and then the media can have their interviews, whilst our dearest participants can have their break. But before I close this session, may I humbly acknowledge again the dignitaries on our high table. The first person is Mr. Bafwo Iwa, Chief of Program and Medical and Dental representing the Minister of Health. And then we have Mr. Samuel Akobiri from the Ghana Prison Service, representing the Director General. And then Mr. Michael Ado, Deputy Director, Narcotic Control Commission. Please give us a wave. And our dearest Mr. Bernard Asamoah from the UNODC. Please give us a wave. And before, once again, I mentioned the chairman's name, permit me to introduce Mr. Akresi Sapong. Mr. Akresi Sapong. And our dearest chairman, His Lordship, Justice Bright Mensah. Thank you very much for joining us for this opening session. We've brought it to a close. Thank you.
So, participants, those on the high table, can you come now, take a photograph? The photographers, please take one, and then participants, before you go for your break, kindly join us here. The photographers, can we sit? No, we should stand.